Well, it's a good evening from Radio FM88 Australia in the studios in Brisbane. We're going live, of course, live on radio on FM88 Australia. And if you like, you can jump onto the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel, Radio FM88 Australia. And afterwards, you can actually jump onto Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Apple. And tonight, for the very first time, we're going out on Twitter, X. So it's
who's Twitter X?
Or X Twitter, yeah. Steve
Oh, you'll have to enlighten me about that one afterwards. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, Jeff's the name, but that's okay. Anyway, without further ado, I'll pass it on to Andrena, and she can bring us up to date with our guest from the UK.
Right. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, and welcome wherever you are in the world. And if you're tuning in today, it's lovely to have you with us. And if you're listening to the replay, still lovely to have you listening. So today is the 28th of December, 2024. Things are moving faster and faster. God, I've already... That's that Twitter. Sorry, I start again. It's the 28th of November, 2024, because I was thinking, God, December's just around the corner. Anyway, today we have Christian Kyriacou on the show, and it's my pleasure to have you on the show, Christian. So it's so lovely to see you, and it's been such a long time. So welcome.
Thank you, Andrena.
So if we backtrack, I met you 2002 when I was doing a ceremony in Avebury, and you turned up at my ceremony, which was just incredible, and which is lovely. And we've been to some different functions since, and I haven't seen you for ages, but I've seen you, your house whispering and different things on Facebook and YouTube. Anyway, I was talking to the lovely Juliet Bryant, and I was saying about guests for the show, and she said, what about, I said, oh yeah, that would be good. So I'm really looking forward to sharing your story, because I know you've got so much to share. I know you've been an architect for over 40 years, and you're a musician, house whisperer, and geomancer, and so much more. And I know we can touch on many, many subjects today. But let's start at the very beginning. Let's start where you were born and take us through the steps that have brought you to where we are now, and how the different paths that have brought you here, doing all the different things that you're doing. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, because we only have 1 hour.
Well, we can expand it.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was born in Cyprus and came to London when I was 2 years old. And even from the early days, I remember being very aware of energies, and particularly dark energies, which were very uncomfortable. So they're kind of like my first memories of hiding under bedclothes because there were ghosts around. And not so long ago, I actually went to the house we first moved to in North London. And with my brother, he said that's a house, and sat outside, and he'd sort of walked around the corner to his home. And as I looked at the house, there was it was slightly raining, but I thought I'd take a picture of the house. And as I took a picture, a lightning bolt went over the house, and I thought, wow, there's like a portal connection to my 70 odd years or whatever ago, when I was actually living there. So that was quite a significant moment. So moving on from that, lots of upheavals with family. I got taken into care with my older brother for 1.5 years. And that sort of like launched me into the whole psychological issues of abandonment. So that's kind of become, like one of my threads I've had to deal with this lifetime. And that kind of comes into my teaching and practicing, of course, as we do what we want to learn and so on. So eventually back home, back into primary school. And then next significant age was about 8 years old, being introduced to music and learning the piano. I started learning the piano at 8 years old, and that went on and sort of advanced into learning jazz and blues on the piano and so on. The next major significant thing, which I didn't realize until some years ago, when I was around 12 years old, I got really interested in psychology and started doing correspondence courses in psychology. I wanted to understand what the world and life was about. And at the same time came across the Rosicrucian Order in London and started doing their course. Of course, looking back now, what I'm working with and teaching is very much part of all that knowledge. So it got kicked off at that age and then kind of forgotten for many, many years. So following from that, just sort of school, college, exams. I was working with my father, who's a builder and shop fitter, and all he did was build Indian restaurants in and around the UK, London and the UK. And so I got pulled into working with him physically on building sites. And that was a great training because it just launched me into, the mud and dust and the grime and all the trades, especially woodwork. So that's one of my sort of loves, working with wood. And then soon after that, he wanted me to, one of his sons to become an architect. So I was the only one who was sort of up for that. And it sounded great. Didn't really know much about it consciously, what architecture was about as such. But he had a Greek architect he worked with who was doing all the drawings for his restaurant. And this chap spent his time in nightclubs doing deals. So I thought, well, if that's the life of an architect, I'm up for it. I thought, little did I know how much work and study architecture was going to be. So I got into architecture college. So 7 or 8 years training. It was hard going. It's a lot of work. It's not an easy one. But came out of that qualified. But meanwhile, by the time I started architecture, I was already, doing drawings for restaurants, Indian restaurants. And today I've designed probably 333 restaurants, Indian restaurants, in and around the UK. And any restaurant owner that might be listening to this, you might be amused that every single Indian restaurant in the country that has, the columns and the Indian arches.
Yeah.
They've all got it wrong, and they're all a copy of what I designed in the late 60s, and I got it wrong. I actually designed Indian columns and arches to the Alhambra, which was Moorish, not Indian. So, and I've still got the original tracing drawings, which are, years before CAD, computer drawing. So I've got this design of Indian columns and arches that I got wrong and have been copied ever since in every single Indian restaurant in the country. So I can guarantee you that every Indian restaurant shop front is a copy of my design that I got wrong. That's quite amazing. And I've got so many images of that. So every time I go past an Indian restaurant, I think, yeah, you copied one of my designs and you got it wrong. So that's a bit of an amusement. But then, so I started officially studying architecture in 1971. And at the same time, met my then wife, ex-wife now, and joined a philosophy school in London. And, there was this great need and, continuing from that 12 years old psychology, Rosicrucian stuff. And I was learning Sanskrit, the Vedic scriptures, sacred geometry, sacred sound. So that started in 1971. And my then ex-step-father-in-law introduced me to sacred sites and Avebury and Stonehenge. So I started visiting those, checking out ley lines, Chartres Cathedral, maps and drawing. So I've been into that since 1971, and it kind of continued from there. Continued with architecture, designing restaurants. Then in the 80s, got involved in designing airport interiors in the UK, and just got thrown in from the Indian restaurant level and house conversions straight into a much bigger world of airport interiors. And the first one was at Manchester Airport, designed the entire tax duty-free area. Then it's probably demolished now because they upgrade every few years, all the interiors. And worked through the 80s working on something like 33 of 35 UK airports. So, and when I look back now, I was aware of it at the time, of course, that every single design, and you can see them on my website under the architectural portfolio, every one contains sacred geometry and feng shui before I was even aware of feng shui, which didn't come into my life.
Yeah.
So it was very innate for me to be designing with sacred geometry. It's been there since, many lifetimes. And Plato is one of my teachers. So, and he comes into the frame quite a lot. So a lot of that went through sort of divorce in the sort of mid-late 80s, and ended up. Oh, there we go. Lovely. Thank you for putting that up. Yeah, so you can see some of the Indian restaurants there, and Newcastle. Yep. Some of those are mine. Yep, for sure. I recognize some of those. Excellent. So yes, so I love Indian food, of course.
I bet. if you've designed that many restaurants.
My father took me to many, so that was great.
So can I just ask? You had early awareness as a young child. Were your parents in any way awakened or in tune so that came? So you've come in
completely fresh. They held a framework of love and encouragement. That's kind of how I would package it, if you like. But they weren't into esoteric. They love music, of course, which is why they got us, me and my older brother, started learning the piano. But no, not at all. They were just very encouraging and created a lot of confidence, so I can stand on a stage, in front of 50 or 500 people, or and just talk about anything. So they gave me that strength of confidence, and some say a bit of Greek arrogance, but it helps.
Totally.
So after the divorce stuff, I met someone who said, there's this thing called feng shui. I said, what's that about? Oh, it's sort of about you and where you live. And I thought, that sounds familiar. So I went to a weekend workshop, and as soon as I heard the first opening lines, it's like, I know this. I know it. I really knew it. And I know we joke about people doing a one weekend course and becoming an expert practitioner, but what it did for me was just open the gateways to what I'd already had studied, past lives and this life, of course. So straight away I was into practicing it, and doing consultations from 1995. So yes, that's nearly 30 years now. And several years of that, and I started teaching sacred geometry workshop weekends until I realized, I think it's what we touched on a bit earlier, Andrena, that many people were not able to, understand the mathematics and the numbers, and then realized that if I started to use sound and relate that to number, like, you know, 1, and then the 2 is the octave, and halfway is a major fifth on the piano and things like that, then people could actually feel the numbers and feel sacred geometry, and they could feel the effect it was having on their body. You're flashing my lifetime before me.
High speed.
At high speed, yeah, lovely. Yeah, so that started, and then for a few years I realized that there were areas that weren't working in feng shui, and I was facing things like, you know, a child with leukemia and too near a substation, and you know, my feng shui training didn't help there. So and there was one consultation up in Yorkshire, and that was the case. The child's bedroom was quite close to a substation, and my assistant at the time was holding the dowsing rods, and when they were crossing, that was an indication of a serious effect on that room, that child that was in that room. And so I stood by the substation and just called on the spirit of Plato, and he showed me how to put an energetic grid, a geometric grid around the substation to stop the damaging waves from spreading across to the house. And as I looked across, and she didn't know what I was doing, I could see her dowsing rods went from crossed. So that's how it was real time at that consult. And so that I knew straight away that worked. And that was a huge turning point for me in sacred geometry and protection structures, which I teach now in my, you know, 1-year academy, House Whispering Academy course. And so, you know, that then took off working, you know, with masters in geometry and spirit, and being shown incredible, you know, energetic machinery. One of my major memories was being taken to an Egyptian cave, and there was a master there, and he gave me a golden orb, and I said, okay, what do I do with this? And I was holding the orb, and he gave me a mantra, and a mantra is a set of words which is a code that activates something. And this mantra activated this golden orb, which started to open up into spinning sacred geometries, which I would now describe as light codes. Sacred geometry, light, sound, yeah, we're talking about the light codes, which is what my current book about to be published is about. A completely different story from my House Whisperer book. And from there on, that just kicked off. So this was late 90s, kicked off into working in a very different way with energy, because I knew the feng shui stuff that I'd learned is very valuable and important, but there's a much bigger picture to do with our relationship, our inner relationship to the outer world, and the connection to the universal grid and the matrix, and where we've come from, and the energy points and the ley lines and vortexes and galactic portals, which is really what much of the work is about now. Yeah, so there we go. That's a House Whisperer book, which is 10 years old now, but every page is still relevant. That I would say there is nothing in the House Whisperer book that does not touch on some aspect of life that everybody can relate to, because everybody lives somewhere, you know, whether in a house, you know, a flat, or under a bridge, that is home. And what is, you know, where we live physically is a pure reflection of our inner home, our belief structure, our entire life externalized. That's why I can go into anybody's home and read their life without them saying anything.
Amazing.
It's all there. And therefore, if there's a problem with somebody's life or ever issue, there are 9 areas of life in the feng shui system, whether it be career, relationships, financial, health, etc. Everything is externalized into the home physically. And that's okay. It's that's who we are, and we're reflecting back constantly. But the problem becomes, if we want to change something in life, if you want to achieve our dream the new dream, now
you're talking.
Now we're talking. You have to break the pattern, but that pattern has been set. It's been set in the space we live, inner space, outer space. So everything is correlated together, and it's about seeing that, understanding what the patterns are. So really, what I'm really working and teaching is the psychotherapy of space. That's more accurate than feng shui, or whatever. It's because it's about us. Everything is about us. People say, "Oh, my house has got a problem." I say, "No, you have, darling." It's your house. You can blame your house. It's like that great sort of cartoon that popped up the other day. Learn feng shui and blame everything on your furniture.
Yeah, quite. I love it.
So it really. I'm going to try and ignore the messages, because that's going to throw me off if I try to read anything. So really, it's this correlation that I love. I just absolutely love working with. And I work with my partner Solveig, who's super psychic and does much the same as me, but with a very different approach. And it's really powerful work. So whatever anybody comes with, it's not about, all right, I'm going to use feng shui, or I'm going to use this or this. It's more about what does somebody need, and how can I help you? As I teach in my House Whispering Academy training, it's more about training, this instrument to be refined, and the ability to connect to source in the present moment. Because without that, or with that, we're connecting to the Akashic field and the entire galactic library of knowledge. And again, that's part of what my new book is about. A journey from another galaxy to Earth and the light code. So that's another story.
Sounds like a good read.
It is. It's nearly twice the size of the House Whisperer book, so it's going to be quite a read. That's the cover of the new book.
So did you design the cover? Is that your skill as well?
My niece designed the cover, Eleni, and she and her brother Adam is incredible at orchestrating music. They're both incredible musicians. At 15, he started to compose like Bach out of nothing.
Wow.
Something kicked him from another parallel dimension.
Yeah.
He doesn't quite understand what or why, but it's clear to me what has kicked off. So that's magic. But he's orchestrated the album. So just diverting onto that. In 1993, before I met feng shui, I started getting downloads of music tracks, and I composed. They were being composed through me, so I put together about 5 tracks, and then my brother helped me orchestrate them. He's actually quite Andonis is quite a musician in himself, and has written movie themes quite a bit. And he's written a lot for Demis Roussos, actually, some hits for Demis. That's more in the 80s. But so he helped me put them onto a CD, and that CD sat in the drawer for 25 years. Nobody heard it. And then 5 or 6 years ago, it kind of woke up. And I said to my brother, do you think Adam, my nephew, his son, could help me orchestrate these pieces? Because by then they'd increased in number. And eventually they agreed and started. So that took a few years. But we've ended up with 33 tracks, but 22 tracks have been produced as an album, and they're available. If you click on my website under music, Whispers of the Ancients, the entire album is there, and you can listen to it for free on YouTube or Spotify. This is why musicians make no money, of course. I'm glad I'm not, depending on that for income. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So in fact, yes, if you click any of those, Amazon, Spotify, you can listen to all the tracks. They're produced in 432 hertz, which is actually quite a magical frequency.
Yeah, lovely.
But that top, there we go. You got the images there. But that top video there, Jeffrey, if you scroll back up, if you click that, Eleni produced that video. It's a 9-minute video that tells the entire story coming from another planet to Earth, bringing the light codes, and the whole journey of meeting the Earth wisdom keepers like Plato, Mozart, Leonardo, and so on. And all the discussion. So it's a kind of historical, very correct. It's quite a juggle to get the all the dates, and the moving through different time zones and all the discussions of it's the journey. So it's kind of a galactic journey, but also the hero's journey concept. So it's it's quite a story. But that 9-minute video, I can see you're starting a little bit of it. Is quite a piece, and it contains the first track, in the video. But one thing, I if I just backtrack a bit, after the 1993 and the producing the that initial CD, I was at a geomancy weekend in Sussex with Richard Crapemore, geomancer. You probably know Richard, Andrena. And I was at a weekend there, and I was playing a couple of the tracks on the piano, and these two women said, "What are you playing?" Because they recognized the music.
Really?
So I just sort of joked, it's just something I composed a bit earlier or something silly like that. And they told me the story about, this planet 5 million years ago, about to explode from warfare, and I was one of the pilots who came to Earth. In 3 spaceships. So I thought, okay, it's one of those weekends. I had a bit to drink, people having a bit to smoke, okay, great. But the next morning, what was extraordinary is that Richard and one of the ladies put their foreheads on mine. And I've never experienced this before, but it wasn't a memory. I was taken through like a galactic portal to that time, to that planet, which I call Vesica in the book, Planet Vesica, and experienced and felt and smelt and breathed. I was there.
Wow.
It's the most incredible. And that memory, that feeling has been with me, which is what's created more music tracks and where it's got to now. And so I started to think, okay, well, I can make a 12-part movie series out of this whole thing, meeting all the different wisdom keepers of Earth, like, say Plato, Mozart, Leonardo, and so on. And I love video editing and putting music to it. And then my partner Solveig said, you've got to write the book to get it accurate and actually tell your story rather than going to a big production company and them taking over and, washing it out. Yeah. So I thought, okay, so I've got to write the book. So I started writing the book, and that's 5 years ago. So it's about to happen now. So the Vesican is about to hit, the shop. So everyone will know
Fabulous.
About it.
Can I just interrupt you?
Sure.
People will go to New Zealand and they'll meet the Maoris.
Yes.
And quite often, most Anglo-Saxons or anybody else who are not part of the Maori traditions will see them rubbing noses. Yeah. But that's not what it's all about. It's actually third eye to third eye, and that's where they meet and greet the soul of the person they're meeting. Yeah. So when you described your situation there, I knew straight away that you're actually doing third eye, soul to soul.
Yeah. Yeah, magic. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's really what it's about. And the more I work with this, it's about energy portals and gateways into other dimensions, parallel dimensions. And as you start working with that, you're then introduced and shown more. And as I was writing different chapters of the book, I'm just being downloaded information and things like how was Mozart murdered, you know, and that sort of thing. And I'm getting him talking to me, and so on and so on. So, you know, you can question anything, but it makes a great story either way. But yeah, it's a just going back to Glastonbury there, Andrena. I don't know if you were there. I went to a talk with a Peruvian shaman one evening, and you know, really interesting. I could feel he was really genuine, and I liked what he was saying. And outside, we were just sort of saying goodbye and sort of, you know, doing the hugging bit. And I went to give him a hug to say goodnight, and he stopped me and took my hand to shake my hand. I thought, okay, all right. So just shaking hands with him, but he wouldn't let go. He was like holding my hand. And then I just really fell still and realized he was transmitting his entire culture's knowledge through the palm chakras. And I could feel it. He was giving me the knowledge. And I thought, wow.
Yeah, and, gosh.
Yeah, that was another understanding of connecting through energy portals into a whole culture's library of knowledge. And we can access all this. And, you know, there are ways of doing that with different planetary system and so on, because everything, as we know, is connected through the morphic field, the matrix, where there's no time in reality and truth. You know, it's all one, and different parallel realities existing at the same time. And I'm experiencing that more and more, you know, in life and doing the work I do. So it's quite a journey. It's yeah. So when you then start
what do you do in your spare time?
My spare time. Well, in my spare time, I pick up the guitar, and right. You know, I started seriously playing guitar live with bands, you know, in local pubs, which is great fun. Kind of picked up from my my band days of 1969-70 when I played in bands in London. I used to play the keyboard, well, the organ it was called there. They didn't call them keyboards, it was the organ and the Hammond organ. So that was great.
Because I saw on your website, I saw a picture of you and Tim Wheater, and Carol and we'd gone to when I was up in Glastonbury, it must have been 3 months ago. Tim was playing at the ashram, and we went along to see him, and you know, I hadn't seen him for a while, which was nice. Yeah,
he came here and did a workshop. We did a workshop together in my house here years and years ago. Gosh, yeah.
Hey, you have 2 things here. The first one was shaking hands. Yeah. So the concept of shaking hands was the fact that when you met either friend or foe, when the hand came out, you realized there was a genuine connection there, as opposed to having a sword in that hand.
Okay. Yeah.
So the sword was replaced by the handshake.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, yeah.
So straight up and down. Whereas if you know you go in the Middle East, the hand's placed the other way, so that the bakish, the payment can be slipped from one palm to the other.
Right. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Hey, is it possible that we can get those 22 music tracks and put them on the radio station's playlist?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all in the public domain and available. Whether you get them through YouTube or Spotify, but the YouTube link is something that everyone can link into for free.
Right. So the next question I've got to ask you, the point that was 432, and so like 6 months ago, I had thought about, because we had Neil H on the show, and he was now putting his music into 432, and I thought to myself, I could probably put all our playlists, our complete 12,000 songs and put it through a software program that will change it from 440 to 432.
Sure.
Is that what I was going to say? Do you lose anything in the harmonics by putting the whole playlist and moving it into a software program with 432?
I don't think so. I've heard music that's been converted from 440 to 432, and there is a difference in the feeling. I mean, it's only 8 cycles difference, which is hardly perceptible, but you can feel it. Don't do that with mine though, because it's already 432.
yeah. No, I understand that.
And the thing is, what very simply, the mathematics are the number 3. Anything that's divisible by 3 is a very natural harmonic. So when we look at images in water or sand vibrations, when it's a divisible by 3, like the solfeggio scales, like the 369, 963, 528, and so on, the healing frequencies, you see the pattern is harmonious. But when you've got it at the 440 hertz, it's chaos. And of course, there are all sorts of discussions about, was it deliberately done, in 1938 by certain governments to sort of muck up our frequencies? That's another discussion. But what's for sure, energetically, anything to do with the number 3 division is healthy for the body. Anything else is not. So, it's a very simplest way of putting it. So anything that's divisible by 3, of course, the 3, is why we have, triangles, and you need 3 points to map out, sort of locations and that. So the 3 is, and it's the 3 energies of the universe, inside the R, the U, and the Ma, so those 3 energies, which is where we get the sound of Om from. So number, mathematics, music is all connected. And of course, literature and poetry, like Shakespeare's sonnets, they're all sort of rhythmic, iambic pentameter, and it's all rhythm and music and number. So yeah, it's another whole subject we can go into.
Yeah. We'll have you back for a different subject. So can we?
And I just want to let people know we've got a chorus. So I just wanted to show people
the frogs.
Yeah. I've been muting my what's name, but I'll just show you that who our friend is. That's our mate. There you go. No?
Are we supposed to hear something?
Oh, no. That's he's been in the background singing. So last week I was able to get a photo of him. That's him there. Anyway, carry on.
I just see one of the messages about being at Glastonbury Abbey with me and sounding the golden rule. Carol, because the magic of that, because we are golden mean beings, our heart harmonics, resonate to the golden mean ratio. And again, if I say, the golden mean ratio is 1.618, it's like people go, numbers, but essentially what we're talking about is that geometry. That's a golden mean spiral. Yeah. And we get sort of things like, pendants, again, which is like that golden mean, which I'm sure people recognize. But we can get to that ratio through sound, and that's really quite powerful. And it's very simply, you sound one note, then you sound the octave, and then if you go halfway, you've got the major fifth. So we know that C on the piano, C the next one up, and then the G halfway is 1.5. And the golden mean ratio is 1.618. So it's just a fraction above the middle. So if you get one person or one group sounding one group sounding 2, another group sounding the middle, and then you're just going up a fraction, you create the golden mean in space, in sound. And if it's accurate, everyone feels it, and suddenly you're transforming the space that you're in. And in one session we had, the room literally became a spaceship. It was scary. It really threw me. It was so accurate, the sound. Everyone in the room was beginning to vibrate, and the hairs on your body start to tingle. The room starts to spin, because the golden mean is, well, it's the pentagram. It's why magic is sent through the pentagram, because nothing can stop it reaching out into the universe, because everything is connected, and the golden mean is the magic geometry. It's the essence of time-space travel, anti-gravity machines like Schauberger's work, if you're familiar with Schauberger, and flying saucers, etc., etc. I probably won't say too much in case we get cut off, but
yeah.
there we go.
Careful, warning.
Yeah, exactly. But I share a lot of this in my teaching in the 1 year academy course, and we do occasionally get shut off, you know. But so I have to constantly create energetic shields.
No surprise.
You know, but that's what I teach. So, but sometimes I miss out and we get caught out. But it's great fun. But oh yes, that's it. The House Whispering Academy. So that starts on the 8th of April.
Look, I've got lots of questions to ask about the your house whispering, like, you know, because I know that when we've talked before, you said that every home has a story, and you have the ability to connect with the soul of that building. So so I don't know where we want to start with this, because obviously, you know, I've said to you about moving on from here, and, you know, like different people saying you haven't finished work on the land, and, you know, your next step's not ready, and I think, well, like you said, about being in alignment. So sort of, can you give us some basics on and obviously it'd be lovely it'd be lovely to hear some stories as well, like what the houses have said to you, like things that have gone on. So I know there's so much. So anyway, where would you like to start?
Well, what I say is we are never living in the wrong house. Where we are is where we've been attracted to, or the house is called us. I've got lots of stories about both. But when a house, people say, oh, the house called me. I'm sure we've all heard that phrase. Then I know that you've got a karmic contract to do with that house or land. You're there for a purpose, and you have to fulfill that purpose. And when people come to me and say, oh, I've got my house on the market for 6 months, a year, 2 years, I can't sell it, you haven't fulfilled your karmic contract. And as soon as that is sorted, which can be done in one session, house sold. Doesn't matter how long it's been on the market. The quickest I have had a result is 1 hour from the hit point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people that have got a house to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Estate agents, realtors are not the people who sell houses. The house is sold by the soul of the house, the spirit of the house. And so, I've got so many stories on that. So there's some in my House Whisperer book. But it's all to do with the relationship. It's all about relationships. You know, the person, their contract with the house. Obviously, if there's more than one person and a family and children living in the house, it makes it more complicated. And if I have to work with, if there is an issue in any particular house or people's lives, I have to work with the person who has the karmic contract to the house or the land. But often you get the woman calling you for help. Maybe 1 out of 100 it's the man, but it's usually the woman doing the emotional housework, as we know. Oh, well, it's really important that your husband or partner does join. Oh, but he doesn't believe in this. He's a skeptic and he's out playing golf that day. It's great. Okay. Yeah, it's same old story. But what I do then, you say, look, get him to meet me first thing in the morning, have a cup of coffee. So it's a bit sneaky. And then I put the dowsing rods in the man's hands. So I've got mine, he's got his. I say, just walk around with me. So we're walking around, and suddenly his rods are like going all over the place. And he's thinking, oh my God, what's going on? 9 times out of 10, they actually stay the rest of the day because they're curious. So I've managed to sort of, work that one out. But and men are really good dowsers. It's not about male or female, but so that's one aspect. But what aspects of the house? But health, for example, there are whatever is gone on in a house, however we might say, well, this is a very unhealthy house, or it's got geopathic stress, which you can pick up the pendulum and you can get a house, and I often do that. I'll always print out mapping of someone's house, get the pendulum and douse over it, and you get lines, your energy lines, vortexes, and most of them are psychic energy, not physical geopathic energy. It's all connected, but it just tells me that we are the problem.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you resolve a particular issue with someone, the pendulum stops, because there's no problem. You've harmonized the disharmony. It's when we're out of resonance with ourselves and our environment, it creates a fragmentation of space, and creates chaos. And when things are in chaos and out of natural galactic cosmic harmony, we get sick. The body gets sick. And so I get a lot of people say, this is a cancer house, or a house with ME. And so if you're moving to that house, you're going to get sick. Yes, you are. But you have chosen to move there because you have a resonance to that illness. And so you've been attracted to it. Now, the problem is, there's an opportunity there. If you're sort of aware or awake enough to realize and ask for help, it can be resolved. And I've seen successes without saying that I can cure something, because, as you know, that's illegal in England. 1951 Act, you cannot actually say you can cure the what's it, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I've seen, doing this work, tumors that size disappear within a week.
Wow, amazing.
And on one occasion we worked with somebody in London, and she didn't want us to visit because it would upset her dog too much, going around doing space clearing and bells and whistles and smoke, and we were working like 3 sessions a week apart. And by the time we had the second session, she said it's quite miraculous, but the dog's tumor has shrunk to virtually nothing. But we weren't working with the dog, we were working with her, because the dog was absorbing her story. And that's what we do with animals. If we don't sort our stuff out, animals will get the hit. So I've seen a lot of healing when we go to a house and there's a dog or a cat, you can see, the cat saying, "Oh, thank God you're here. I've been trying to tell my own for years," And at the end of it, I've got some amazing photos. I think some on my website. There was one actually that stands out. And it was actually one of my academy groups, and we did it together. And she had a dog that never likes photos, or never liked having photos taken with her or whatever. But at the end of the consult, I shut the laptop, and this dog jumps up on the sofa next to me, leans into me, and I take a selfie. And she said he'd never ever done that in his life. But dogs know, they're grateful, they understand energy, and dogs don't like negative energy. Cats love it. So that's always a gauge. There was one house in Sweden we were selling. We bought a house and then we were selling it, and the energies were a little bit dodgy, but and the person who came to buy it had a dog with her, and said, "Do you mind if I can't go in with the dog, because the dog will tell her if the energies are not good." So I had to have a quiet word in the dog's ear before he went in. But,
I love it.
It was okay. The dog gave the thumbs up or the tail up, so it was okay. So she bought the house.
Hey, and we had to come and sell our mum and dad's house, which was they'd lived in it for 62 years.
Oh yeah.
The house number was 36, right? Anyway, my sister and the real estate agent were banging in the sign for sale, and then my sister stepped back to take a photo to send to us kids all over the world. Car drives along, reverses back, buys the house. I mean,
yeah.
But another thing I need to talk to you about is that sometimes in your dream states, you can actually go back to that particular home.
Yes.
What's the connection there when you're talking to either people from the past or people in the present, or then I found out that people in the future.
Yeah.
When I say people from the future, the timeline, it might be 5 years' time, but then you meet those people, but they've gone back into your house. Now that's in your living room when you see them. So the question is that an astrological sign to do with family or friends? Is that type of an astrology house?
It's a fascinating one, and I work with that quite a lot and teach how to access all that. If you imagine wherever you're living now, if you've lived in a home that you really loved, we often go back there in our mind. Now, if you imagine going back to a home you lived in before, in current time now, those people who are living there might perceive you as a ghost.
True.
So we're into the sort of the paranormal. In fact, I was teaching this in the academy last night with a group. So if they're aware enough, they're going to see your presence, and they might think it's a ghost, but it's not. It's a memory projection. And we're all sort of guilty of doing this. If it's somewhere we lived and loved, we're going to go back there daytime, daydream, or nighttime. Yeah, but nighttime and dreams, of course, we're all over the galaxy and different dimensions.
God, are we just?
Yeah, and it's all happening at the same time, as you say, parallel realities and dimensions. But there was one case where there was a murder in a flat in North London we had to go and deal with. And what became clear was I got zapped back to 6 generations in this family where in Greece there was a murder over land that wasn't resolved. And it played out 6 generations later in current time now with a murder in this flat. And so I had to get the client to go back to resolve that issue. And then in quantum time, that has a knock-on effect back to now. And if that's not resolved in that way, it's going to happen again and again. And this applies to every aspect of life. If we can deal with something now, so I'm often working with jumping around timelines, and this timeline thing is a very powerful healer. But going back to manifesting the dream, which is kind of one of our titles, if we have a vision, a dream of something we want to do in life, the question is, what stops us getting there? It's the stuff in our space, the patterns, the belief systems, and it's very much a physical, metaphysical construct, and it's messy often. And this is why space clearing and aligning our space is so important, because then you've got a clear channel for your vision, the seed point, the spota in Sanskrit, where you hold the code of what you want to create, can actually go forward and manifest. And as we know, manifestation is through sound. So if we sound a particular word or a mantra, it explodes from the seed point like a plant and grows out. But if it's stifled with stuff we've got in our space, or clutter, if we're going to sort of, space clearing clutter sort of language, it's going to be harder to manifest. So we go into the concept of space clearing, but then just a space clear is not the answer, because To space clear means getting rid of the evidence of what is there that is of value for you to understand about why you're in the situation. So my approach to space clearing is really to read and understand what is there. Because as I said right in the beginning, what's in our space is a reflection of us or whoever's living in the house and all the stories and beliefs, including everyone who's ever lived there, lived on the land. But then because you've been attracted to it, it's your stuff. So it's quite easy to deal with. It's a package of your stuff. And so once that's understood, I'll take the person to get them to realize what's going on. And that's right, I think in the beginning of my House Whisperer book, to get someone to what I call the aha moment, when they realize, yes, that's what's going on. That's why I'm having this problem. Yeah, so do you feel at home where you live? Nice one. So that's really important. So once that's realized, that's really the beginning of that person's ability to do the inner work. And I don't fix things for people. I like get them to see. You know, if I'm fixing things, just like go to a doctor and get a pill, that won't last long. And we've got lots of stories, particularly when feng shui was really at its height in mid 90s, late 90s. Do this and you get a great relationship. But none of those articles ever go back and check, well, what happened after 6 months or a year?
Yeah.
If you don't deal with the deepest issues, the patterns that are running at a very deep level, they're just going to come back out and repeat. So it really is a psychological, psychotherapeutic process. So I say psychotherapy space.
This is interesting.
Then once your space is clear, then whatever vision you've got, you then just transmit that out to the universe, and it will meet and resonate. It's like if you're looking for, a relationship, in feng shui, you say, well, space clear and put something symbolic in your relationship area of the bedroom, particularly. We said this to a client recently, put something that you feel the emotion of who you want to be with. And she put a couple of horses with no riders on them. And I thought, hang on, have you misunderstood? But in fact, it was perfect because she wasn't quite ready. It was beautiful. So really the message is, if you really want to go for it, put a picture or a sculpture. When you look at it, you feel the emotion of who you want to be with, how you want them to hold you and hug you and love you. And so whenever and then you transmit that out to the universe, and that will bounce back really quickly. If your space is clear and your intention is clear, it's magic. You can call it magic, but it's just understanding a universal process. It's incredible how it works. So every time I look into someone's area like that, for example, and I see religious objects or pictures of grandma, grandchildren, I'm thinking, that's what you're in an intimate relationship with. And they go, oh yeah. But you see, if it's in a current situation, and again, come across this many times, where someone's relationship's not going well, you go into the bedroom and they got pictures of, parents, grandmothers, children, and I'm saying, how do you feel about being intimate in bed with your partner, with the whole family watching? And then they suddenly get it. It's like, but if they don't want to be intimate, keep the photos because that's perfect. So it's not about get rid of or do this or do that. It's not what this work is about. It's understanding what someone wants and explaining it, and then they have a choice. It's like with stuck spirit. And again, this was the workshop I was doing last evening. Some people are quite happy to have a ghost living with them because it keeps them company. But my view is, if somebody is stuck, you should help them release, and then they can choose to come back to your guide and helper. So there are lots of, but that's another whole sort of 3-hour discussion.
Like I said, we could go all over the place with so many different subjects.
Yeah. But it's all
coming back to when I was 7 or 8 years old. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a figure standing at the bedroom door looking at me, and I went through the bed covers over me, and then when I was 28 years old, it was actually me standing in the doorway looking at myself.
Yeah. This whole future past reality thing, it's quite fascinating, and if we understand that, it's like a whole cycle. It's like we are our future selves sort of concept, but it's very real. So it's a good confirmation that the future is still there to happen. We haven't blown the planet up yet.
Good.
So somebody's asking, how can sick or terminally people help themselves heal with? Can they help themselves heal with sound? Yes, but you've got to have enough strength and energy to engage in that process. So it's good to work with someone with that. But sound is the greatest healer for sure. And very simply, using Tibetan bowls, and some of these are like 400 or 500 years old. Very powerful healing instrument. Just striking them. I don't know if anyone can hear that, but
I can hear it.
Yeah, it is very powerful, and if you just allow the vibrations. If you really absorb matching bowls, allow that sound to wash through every cell of your body. It's about illness is when we're out of alignment. When we're out of alignment, especially with the golden mean vibrations of the heart, when we're disconnected from that, the body gets sick. And there is a process I use of bringing down a person's original healthy blueprint from their origin and reminding the body of its pure healthy state. Because when we forget our perfect connection to the galactic, and the galactic is the universal harmony of creation, the light codes, which is sound and light. When we forget that, the body forgets and becomes sick.
But like I said to you, when I went to Egypt, that I was fine, and then I was up climbing through all the tunnels in the King's Pyramid and up ladders, and and then within days it was like I was just knocked flat on my back. And I've come back with double pneumonia, and it's like, well, hello, where the hell did that come from? But I know going into Egypt, past lives, energies, and all sorts, it was. Yeah,
it's going to bring all sorts of stuff up, but it's going to bring up things. It's going to bring up stuff that hasn't been resolved. It's like I say with people, if they're hit with really dark energies or entity energies, and evil energies, if you want to put a word on it, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So don't ever try to get rid of it. It's like with clutter, don't get rid of it until you understand why it's there. Because it's a gift to show you what you haven't resolved. And in our, our subconscious, which our lives are lived, 90% by the subconscious. So, the more we can understand that and see a negative situation as a gift and work with it, it's really powerful.
Because I wanted to ask you there, like I help people declutter. I mean, I love, and I've stopped saying getting rid of your clutter or your rubbish, and because it's a source point for people. So I say to people, I help you reorganize it so it looks easier and you can find things easier, as opposed to getting rid of things, because people don't want to get rid of things. So is that part of a house, or is that like obviously part of the that person's, you know, because I've gone to many places, and I'm just amazed at what people keep, but I have to be aware of it's what, you know, within themselves they're not ready to let go, and you know, they have to do the work. So
it's like my partner Solveig says, I've got too many musical instruments, but I love musical instruments. I've only got 13 guitars, you know.
Oh, is that all?
And then I found this mug. I don't know if you can.
You can never have too many. Did she find it, or did you find it?
No, I think I found it in a charity shop, and I'm keeping it.
Yeah, I love it.
But you know, it's like, yes, we can have too much stuff, and I mean, downstairs I've got a music room with keyboards, a baby grand piano, and 13 guitars. Well, one's here, but but
there's sort of clutter.
There's clutter and there's clutter.
It's like what do you really need, and what you can let go of, what you're ready to let go of.
Yeah. And the thing is, whatever we've got around us is a reflection of what we believe we are and who we think we are. And it's like, you know, these TV programs where people go in and they clear the entire house and renovate it. And people come back after a week or whatever. And sometimes they're elated, but usually devastated, because you've actually stripped out what they recognize is their life. I mean, it's extraordinary. So it really, you know, you can't space clear for someone. They have to see and understand why they've got these objects, what they represent, and be prepared to do the inner work to release and let go. Otherwise, they go out and bring the clutter back.
If
you want to call it clutter, you know, items. So really, it's a psychotherapeutic process. And I get lots of people who you know, are professional at helping people clear space, you know, like you're saying, but then eventually they come on my academy calls because they know that it's actually a deeper reason, and they want to help somebody psychologically to deal with that. Otherwise, they're constantly going to be going back every week helping them clear, which might be great business, but it's not satisfying knowing that you could go deeper and then help someone help themselves, you know, is really the important thing. So we're never in the wrong house. No. You know, we're in a house, we've been attracted to it with clutter, without clutter, and it's part of our ongoing journey. That's really the main thing.
And interestingly, what I was going to say to you was, like, when I came back from Australia, and after scamdemic and what have you, I wanted to be down by pool, because every time I came down this way, it was just like, oh God, I felt so at home. And I stayed with a friend not far away, and I put out on one of the community groups what I was looking for, a stepping stone to move down here. And anyway, Debs, whose farm it is here, she said, I never ever look at this group, and she said, for some reason I saw your post, and she'd said, so she got in touch with me, and she said, look, you know, I'm at Corfmullen, I'm on a farm, or we have a farm, and so she said, come and have a look. And I'm thinking, I don't know where Corfmullen, straight away I was in my head like, Corfmullen, live on a farm. And anyway, I come and met her, and I was at the front. She does Airbnb, so I was in the chalet, and then the chef school moved in, and so she said, oh, you know, I'll put you in the mobile home around the back. And like, I've got goats, sheep and horses and chickens, and so I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I think I would live on or be living on a farm, or even in a mobile home. And we were going to do the rent week by week because I wasn't staying, and I've been here 3 years. So it's like, well, I definitely didn't choose this place. This place chose me. So, you know, and it's been a great space for me to be on my own and do my own healing, and, you know, healing on the land with instruments. So, so it's amazing that you.
it's a great example of, we're not just working on our own. We're not in charge of the whole show. We've got our guides, angels, and helpers, and the spirit of the house is part of that, and it's going to call us. So many consultation examples I've had where the house is called the person because it needs a human being to resolve an ancient story. There was one house that a client wanted to buy, and she got me to dowse how much to pitch for to buy it, what price. And I got a figure, but it ended up not being the highest figure. But hey, the magic happened and she was offered it. And it made sense after she moved in. I went to work with her, and the man who lived there committed suicide, and you could still feel the energy in part of the kitchen where he did it. But he was rejected by his wife, who left him on his own, committed suicide. But so he wanted a woman to move in with him, to live with him and love him. But obviously he was still dead, but that doesn't matter. You can be in a relationship with the spirit, like I've got so many examples, stories of that. So, but you're not in a relationship with a living person, but with somebody in the other world. And that's what he was. So he manufactured it so that she would get the house, move in with him. And I've got this all on video, and I haven't posted it yet. These extraordinary discussions between them and what he wanted. And she could actually feel his emotional and the other energies while we were working. It was really quite interesting, I have to say.
I bet.
That's what he wanted. He wanted her in a sort of a physical but metaphysical relationship. So you get this kind of level of stuff I love working with, because it goes way beyond, where shall I hang my wind chimes or put my three-legged toad? It's not about that. And of course had to get the man to release and leave, because he didn't want to be in a relationship with somebody in spirit who committed suicide, and not very healthy, right. I would say. But part of her attracted that as well. So it's law of attraction. It's never a one-way thing. And she needed to experience that because of something in her life, which I won't go into. But But that helped to resolve, that process helped to resolve it. So that one consultation helped him release, helped her understand what was going on in her life, and she's kind of, moved on positively. So, where do you want to go from here?
Well, I think, we could go on to many subjects. So I think if we bring it to a close now, but I'd love you to come back and maybe talk all about sacred geometry or whatever, because there's so many subjects, or yes, plenty of other subjects to
absolutely love to. And if people want to look at my website, there's lots of videos, lots of information and guidance, and of course workshops. I've got a free workshop coming up in beginning of December that anyone can join for free. I've got my short 8-part course at the end of January starting, and that's very affordable. It's like quite a low price. And then in April, I start my 1-year training, the next round of 1-year training for teaching people to do what I do. So, and of course, I'm always available for consultations. So everything's on the website.
Well, there's the frogs.
Lovely.
I've had to mute myself for quite a bit. There's 2 ladies have asked questions. I haven't put them up because I thought we could wait to the very end there.
Sure.
One was that this one here is just this lady here. So it's best if she gets hold of you via website, via Facebook page.
Just email me, Christian@Kyriacou.com. That's the shortest, or through my webpage. And happy to answer anything briefly. But there are no quick fixes. I don't give quick bits of advice because that's irresponsible. Because as you probably gathered, one issue, spreads across so many aspects of this work.
But it's layers, isn't it?
It's layers, yeah. And lots of threads. And But yeah, please, anyone do contact with brief questions. And I say that, and sometimes people send me 20 pages of what's going on.
Yeah.
Keep it brief, and you've got a better chance of me responding. But I'll always find 10, 15 minutes to talk to anyone who needs any guidance, and then if I can then take it into a consultation and help people, happy to. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So just contact me on my email. Yeah.
What was your email? I didn't have your email address.
Just my name, Christian@Kyriacou.com, or you can find links on my website.
It should be in the flyer. All the information's there as well. So
yeah.
Anyway, that was absolutely amazing. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and it's been such a long time. Of course, I was thinking I hadn't seen you about. Of course, I was in Australia for 10 years, so
yes,
probably why. So anyway, so it's been an absolute delight. So thank you so much for sharing, and I'll definitely be in touch for you to come back in the new year to share some more
lovely
of your wisdom.
Thank you, Andrena. Thank you, Jeffrey, for setting this up. It's been really lovely to share, and plenty more, as you say. So wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, well, thank